All right, and let's continue the conversation with Dr. Jenna Mendelson, a licensed psychologist with LeBauer Behavioral Medicine. I know we just kind of heard about one family's plight with it and how they deal with it and how they overcome. But when someone hears the word autism or on the spectrum, they may think they understand what it all means, but what do those terms really mean?
In order to meet criteria for autism spectrum disorder, people have to have impairments across two domains. They have to have difficulty with reciprocal social interactions. This can mean difficulty with the nonverbal elements of social interactions like eye contact, gestures, and body language, as well as difficulty maintaining reciprocal conversations and difficulty initiating and maintaining relationships. That's one category. They also have to have difficulty with restricted and repetitive behaviors, which is really a big umbrella with a lot under it, but that includes things like sensory interests and aversions, repetitive use of toys and other objects, hand and body mannerisms, unusually intense interests or unusual preoccupations, and non-communicative use of speech. Those characteristics have to have been present from early in childhood. It's a developmental disability that begins at birth, so we expect to see it from early in childhood. They can't be better explained by a different diagnosis, and we expect that characteristics show up across settings, even though they may show up a little differently depending on the situation.
Okay, so that kind of gives us a broad overview of autism and on the spectrum, but what is it not? What are some of the misconceptions maybe that we should set straight?
Unfortunately, there are quite a few myths about autism spectrum disorder. One is that people with autism can't have meaningful relationships with others, don't want to have relationships with others, or don't feel love. This is absolutely untrue. Individuals with autism are very capable of forming lasting, meaningful friendships and romantic partnerships. They may go about this differently. This myth likely arose due to the difficulty perceiving and responding to social cues that can make forming those relationships more challenging, but still absolutely possible.
Okay, how common is autism? I mean, I think we hear a lot about it now, but like how common is it to have families who have a child or a person, a loved one in their family with autism?
Well, like you just said, the CDC recently released an updated statistic that autism spectrum disorder occurs in 1 in 36 8-year-olds in the US. That's about 3% of the population of 8-year-olds. So it's common. Odds are most of us know or love somebody with autism spectrum disorder and most likely interact with somebody on the spectrum most days, whether or not we know that.
And it is a spectrum, so I mean, there could be, it's variable of how much they do this or they do that.
Absolutely. One expression that I heard once and really like is that you've met one person with autism, you've met one person with autism. They are unique individuals who can present very differently from one another.
At what age should the symptoms of autism develop or start appearing?
Well, autism spectrum disorder is a lifelong developmental disability that is believed, and we have substantial research to indicate that it begins at birth. There are some fascinating eye tracking studies that have been able to distinguish infants who go on to develop autism from those who do not from as early as 4 months of age. So it's there very early on, and often characteristics become observable even within the first year of life and can become reliably diagnosable easily before 2 years.
And that may not be something that a parent, though, like, clues into. So we're going to talk about the signs that parents and caregivers can be aware of when we come back. We're going to continue this conversation after the break.